started with something completely normal. Sarah couldn't find her car keys. She searched her apartment twice, checked the couch cushions, the kitchen counter, even the bathroom shelf. Nothing. As she sighed in frustration, her phone buzzed with a notification. AirTag detected near you. She frowned. Sarah didn't own an Apple AirTag. She dismissed it, assuming it was a glitch, maybe from a neighbor. New tech always had bugs, right? Minutes later, she found her keys inside her handbag, exactly where she'd checked before. Attached to the keychain was a small, white circular device. An AirTag. Her chest tightened. She had never bought one. No one she knew had gifted it to her either. She turned it over, confused, trying to remember if she'd ever seen it before. First, she tried to stay calm. Maybe it was attached accidentally at work. Maybe someone misplaced it. Still, something about it felt wrong. That night, her phone buzzed again. AirTag moving with you. She froze. The message explained that an unknown AirTag had been traveling with her for hours. Sarah's heart started racing. She checked the tracking map. The AirTag hadn't just been near her apartment. It had followed her to work, to the grocery store, to the gym. Someone had been tracking her movements. Trying to convince herself she was overthinking, she turned the AirTag off and placed it inside a kitchen drawer. Then she locked her door and went to bed. At 2:13 a.m., her phone vibrated again. AirTag detected near you. Her blood ran cold. The AirTag was active again. And according to her phone, it wasn't in the kitchen anymore. It was moving. Part 2. Someone knows her routine. Sarah barely slept that night. By morning, she convinced herself to stay rational. She removed the AirTag battery completely and tossed the device into her glove compartment, planning to take it to the police later. The day started normally, until small details began bothering her. At a coffee shop, the barista smiled and asked, "The usual?" She'd never been there before. At work, a coworker joked, "Late today. Traffic on Pine Street again." Sarah hadn't mentioned which route she took. She stopped sharing locations last year. Then her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You're safe when you follow your routine." Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped her phone. She typed back, asking who it was, but the message failed to deliver. Her Apple device buzzed again. AirTag battery replaced. She felt dizzy. No, that was impossible. The AirTag was locked inside her car, battery removed, unless someone had access to her car. That evening, as she walked toward her parking spot, she noticed her trunk slightly open. Inside, neatly placed on the spare tire, was the AirTag. Clean. Battery inside. Active. Someone had been inside her car. Sarah drove home in silence, constantly checking her mirrors. Every car felt like it was following her. Every pedestrian looked suspicious. At home, she locked every door and window, turned on all the lights, and called the non-emergency police line. They told her to bring the device in the next morning. That night, she received another message. "You forgot to check the fire escape." Her heart nearly stopped. Slowly, she turned toward her bedroom window. The fire escape ladder was slightly lowered. Part 3. The sound at the door. Sarah stood frozen in her bedroom, staring at the slightly lowered fire escape ladder outside her window. The night air felt heavier, thicker, like it was pressing against the glass. For a full minute, she didn't move. She didn't blink. She barely breathed. Then she heard it. A soft metallic creak, followed by a dull thud. Someone was climbing in. Her phone slipped in her sweaty palm as she quietly dialed emergency services. She whispered her address, her voice cracking as she struggled to stay calm. The operator told her to lock herself somewhere safe and stay absolutely silent. Sarah stepped into the bathroom, slowly closing the door. The apartment, once familiar, now felt like a trap. From the other side of the wall, she heard footsteps. Careful, unhurried. Whoever it was, wasn't panicking. Then came a sound that made her blood run cold. Faint, rhythmic clicking noise. Plastic. Electronic. Her phone vibrated. AirTag detected near you, 1 meter. Sarah covered her mouth, stifling a scream. Tears filled her eyes as she crouched down beside the bathtub. She could hear breathing now. Calm. Controlled. A soft knock echoed through the apartment. Not on the front door. Not on the window. On her bedroom door. A voice followed. Low. Gentle. Almost caring. You dropped something. Her entire body trembled. She squeezed her eyes shut, praying the police would arrive in time. The knock came again, slower this time. Outside, sirens finally pierced the silence. Footsteps retreated. A window slid shut. The AirTag alert disappeared. When police cleared the apartment, they found no sign of forced entry. No fingerprints. Nothing missing. But under Sarah's bed, taped carefully to the wooden frame, was another AirTag. This one brand new. Part 4. IT wasn't random. At the police station, Sarah sat under harsh fluorescent lights, her hands wrapped tightly around a paper cup of water she hadn't touched. The officers examined both AirTags carefully, placing them into clear evidence bags. One of them asked a question that made her stomach drop. Do you mind if we check the registration history? Sarah nodded, bracing herself. When the detective returned, his expression had changed. He slid a tablet across the table toward her. On the screen was a timeline, dates and locations stretching back almost a year. The AirTag hadn't just appeared recently. It had been active long before Sarah ever noticed it. The map showed her apartment from last winter, her office building, the hospital where she'd visited her father, even a cafe she used to frequent on Sundays. All the places she thought were private moments of her life were marked with tiny location pins. Sarah felt sick. Someone's been tracking you systematically, the detective said quietly. This isn't accidental. She realized something far more terrifying than a break-in. This person knew her routine, her habits, her safe places. They even knew when she moved apartments. Another officer explained that the AirTags were registered to an anonymous Apple ID. Unless the owner made a mistake or the situation escalated further, there was little they could do. Before leaving, the detective offered one last piece of advice. Change everything. Phone, accounts, schedule, and don't walk alone. That night, back in her apartment, nothing looked the same. Every shadow felt staged. Every sound felt intentional. She slept with the lights on and her phone clutched in her hand. At 3:06 a.m., her phone buzzed. No AirTag warning. Just a message from an unknown number. You were easier to watch before you noticed. Sarah stared at the screen until her vision blurred. She realized then, this wasn't stalking fueled by curiosity. This was possession. And she had. Part 5. The move didn't stop it. Sarah did exactly what the police told her to do. She changed everything. A new phone. A new number. A new Apple ID. She deactivated her social media accounts, stopped visiting familiar places, and moved to a different city without telling anyone except her parents. For the first time in months, silence followed her instead of fear. Weeks went by. No AirTag alerts. No unknown messages. No footsteps in the night. Slowly, she began to believe it was over. Her new apartment was smaller, higher up, with no fire escape nearby. She triple-checked every window and door before sleeping. She unpacked slowly, inspecting every item like evidence. On the third week, she received a package. No return address. Inside was a simple welcome card. Hope you like the new place. Her chest tightened, but she tried to stay logical. Anyone could send mail. That night, as she zipped her suitcase shut, still half unpacked, her phone vibrated. Her heart dropped. AirTag detected near you. Her hands went numb. She stared at the screen, waiting for it to disappear. Didn't. She opened the tracking map. The blue dot wasn't outside. It wasn't in the hallway. It was inside her apartment, moving slightly, slowly, closer. Desperate, she tore through the room, dumping bags onto the floor, pulling clothes apart. Her breath came in sharp gasps as the sound of faint clicking filled the silence. Click, pause, click. Her phone updated the location again. AirTag is with you. She collapsed onto the floor beside the suitcase. With shaking hands, she opened a hidden inner pocket, One she hadn't checked because she hadn't packed it herself. Taped inside the lining was another AirTag, perfectly placed. That's when the truth hit her. The device hadn't followed her. It had traveled with her the entire time, which meant whoever planted it had planned her escape before she ever made it. Part 6, The Warning. Sarah didn't scream when she found the AirTag. Screaming felt pointless now. She sat on the floor for a long time with the suitcase open in front of her, staring at the small white disc taped neatly inside the lining. Whoever had placed it there had done so carefully. Not rushed, not sloppy. Patient, like someone packing for a trip they fully planned to take. She wrapped the AirTag in tissue paper before touching it, her hands shaking despite herself. The fear she felt wasn't sharp anymore. It was deep, heavy, and constant, like a weight pressing on her chest. At the police station, the mood was different this time. Quieter. The officers checked the serial number, exchanged brief looks, and typed notes into their system. The results were the same as before. Same anonymous Apple ID. Same registration pattern. Same dead end. Finally, one officer leaned back and spoke carefully. "Whoever's doing this has waited a long time," he said. "They're organized. They don't panic. And they don't make mistakes." Sarah asked the question she'd been avoiding for months. "Will it stop?" No one answered immediately. She moved in with family that same week. Surrounded by people. Locked doors. Cameras. Lights always on. She changed her habits again, new routes, different schedules, random errands at random times. For a while, nothing happened. No AirTag alerts. No messages. No signs she was being watched. Almost 2 months passed. She started breathing again. Then one night, just after midnight, her phone buzzed softly on the bedside table. Her body went rigid instantly. It wasn't an AirTag notification. It was a text message. From an unknown number. "I know you feel safer now." Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. She didn't reply. The phone buzzed again, slower this time. "I liked you better when you were alone." Tears filled her eyes as a final message appeared. "Check your keys." Her hands trembled as she reached for them.